Hello everyone, welcome to this week's GT Sport Daily Race C Race and Strategy Guide. Week 2 is taking us to the Nurburgring Nordschleife in Germany, and we are in the Group 4 machinery. So let's take a look at the settings for this one. Just the 2 laps to get round, tyre wear at times 5, fuel at times 2, only have the racing hard tyres available, so no mandatory rules on the tyres or on the pit stops. BOP is on, damage is off, it's slipstream at real, and the only real caveat about this one is that we have a grid start. Pretty rare to have a grid start in Daily Race C with either Group 3 or Group 4, usually reserved for the open wheelers, but yeah, sounds good. Grid start, we could have that kind of close racing over the first half of the lap and a little bit of carnage, but there is a problem with the grid start at the Nordschleife, as this is how the cars line up. I have no idea why they don't use all the grid boxes that are available. The Mustang that we're just about to approach here is sitting in box 22, so there's no problem of getting all 20 of the cars on the start finish straight, having everything nicely tightly packed into turn number 1. Of course there would be carnage with that, but yeah, it would make it slightly better than this very drawn out grid that we have instead. This is coming from when we did the FIA race here a few months back in Group 4. There was lots of complaints about that. PD definitely have more options within their box on how to set the grid up compared to what we have when we set up lobbies, etc. For example, this double file rolling start, they can kind of trick the game into setting up, is not available to actually set up, but we do know from the kind of watching some videos of people who have got cracked PS4s and can kind of get into all the options that there is more options available on how they set the grid up. So I'm hopeful that given the complaints in the FIA race that we'll maybe have adjusted that grid start and have all the cars on the start finish straight. Moving on to the strategy, there is, well, this is going to be a pretty short conversation because there is no strategy whatsoever to speak of on this one. Tyre wear is only at times 5, it's the racing hard tyres, there's no mandatory tyres or pit stops, so yeah, it's a 2-lap sprint, there's just no other way, shape or form about it. No point really talking about the strategy anymore because that is it. The only thing I could really think to do to kind of try and flesh this video out a little bit, give you something to watch, is to test a number of different cars. So I'm going to jump in 4 different cars from each of the different drivetrains, give you my thoughts on how each of them handle and what sort of cars are looking to be strong around this combination. First up, we've got the Audi TT representing the FF drivetrain, so front wheel drive, front engined. Brake balance at +5 to try and look after those front tyres because all the weight's on the front of the car, wears out those front tyres more than the rear tyres, and the FF cars are very strong around this combination. Audi TT coming over the start finish line here for a 7 minutes 10.2, optimal at 7:10.0. In terms of tyre wear, you can see from the tyre wear in the bottom left hand corner there, no issues whatsoever for the Audi TT. So yeah, the FF cars are looking fairly strong. Whenever the tyre wear is not that much of an issue, they certainly can make their presence felt. Moving on to the Ferrari 458 representing our MR drivetrain. Brake balance at +2 for the Ferrari. I'm a lot more comfortable in the Ferrari compared to an FF car, which might explain the results we're about to see here. As we approach the start finish line here, we're going to actually set a faster lap time than the Audi. Again, that could just be that I'm more comfortable in a car like this than the FFs, but definitely shows that some other cars other than the FF cars should be competitive here. 709.9 for the Ferrari. No issues whatsoever with the tyre wear on the Ferrari either. MR cars tend to wear the tyres out very evenly. One big difference between the Ferrari and the Audi is that the Ferrari, if you put a wheel on the grass, is going to spin out quite easily, whereas that kind of front wheel drive on the Audi means it's not really an issue. You can kind of get away with minor mistakes a lot more within the Audi. Moving on to the Ford Mustang representing our FR drivetrain. Brake balance at +3 for this one, made it a little bit sketchy towards the braking zones on the rear end. The Mustang actually a pretty good handling FR car and good top end as well, and actually puts in a very representative and respectable result here. 7 minutes at 11.2 for its fastest lap, so 1.2 off the Audi and the Ferrari, but the tyre wear not too bad at all. So FR cars, if there's one that maybe sort of stands out, should be pretty good around here. I think I actually seen Digit Gaming doing a test and he actually used the Toyota GR86, and actually felt that was the fastest car that he had tested. We did test the Lamborghini Huracan as well as our 4-wheel drive representative, but it was not a good test whatsoever. Made a couple of pretty big mistakes in the Lamborghini, and I really didn't have any desire to do any more laps around the Nordschleife for this session. It's going to do a fastest lap of 7 minutes 14.4. It's definitely not 4 seconds off the pace, that's for sure. But a little bit of an odd car to drive, in all fairness. You got random understeer moments out of nowhere, and then in other parts of the track it would actually feel quite decent. But yeah, I'm kind of understanding why you don't see too many Lamborghinis in Group 4 races these days. It's a unusual car, to say the least. So let's just move on to that part of the video. We kind of reiterate what we've discovered already. In terms of strategy, it's a fairly simple one. No strategy whatsoever for this one. It's just a flat out sprint. Tyre wear is barely an issue, even for the FF cars, which tend to be the most tough on the tyres out of all the kind of different drivetrains. In terms of what's looking competitive, in my hands I was slightly quicker in the Ferrari 458 over the Audi TT. Could just be that I'm a little bit more comfortable in that car, but I do remember when we had the kind of last Group 4 race around here that the Ferrari was pretty decent. It's pretty decent everywhere, the Ferrari. It's a nice, very nice Group 4 car indeed. I think most people though will go for the FF cars, in particular the Scirocco. That's my kind of prediction, but going by Digit Gaming's stream that he did earlier on, he found the Toyota 86 to be very, very competitive. Obviously a very good handling car, but yeah, if you've got any sort of decent power cars behind you coming onto that back straight, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. Didn't bother working out the pit loss for this one because it's not applicable, of course. And the only other thing to really mention is that grid start. Hopefully PD have kind of heeded what has been said during the recent FIA race here in Group 4 with the grid start and the full start check, and have maybe closed that grid up so that everybody's starting a lot closer together. That will remain to be seen come Monday morning. I did want to test some cars to see how good they were off the grid, but usually tends to be the MR cars that are strong off the grid, and the FF cars do tend to struggle. But if the grid is as wide apart as it looks like it's going to be, then that's not really going to play a major role. But yeah, unusual race this one. Not really entirely sure why we've kind of gone for the no stopper. Always nice to have a little bit of strategy in race C, but to be fair, there's not been too many no stoppers recently. We will live stream this one at least once during the course of the week. We'll have a couple of race reviews out as well. But if you've liked the video, please hit that like button, please hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you on the next one. Goodbye now.